Hello and welcome. Welcome to my writing vlog. Who am I, you ask? My name is Gary. This is pretty much for anyone who was just searching for any type of writing vlog that there is. I haven't looked too much into it, but I figured I'd give it my own shot, you know. Pretty much tonight, I want to take you with me as I work on chapter 10. Now, don't worry, this isn't, you haven't missed anything. This is my first writing vlog, and I figured better late than never to get you started and seeing how the process goes. It's nothing too complicated. You're just going to watch me write. I'm going to be speaking the whole time and kind of go over the process of what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. But yeah, if this happened to make its way to you and you're watching for the first time, I welcome you. But right now, let's go ahead and get started. Originally, I was going to have it move around, or have it stationary actually, but I'm going to go ahead and just carry it with me and put it down when I need to. But right now I have a lot, and pretty much what's going on here is a major conflict just happened. Kind of changed the tone of the story for sure. You know, it's starting to pick up. Not to say that the book was slow before, but it's just now the tone has changed into something a bit more darker, so I'm glad for that. One of my concerns about this chapter here is that it feels like very much like an exposition dump, but my personal opinion on that is, as long as I'm gonna go ahead and face it to myself, or at least have you pan around so you can look at other stuff. Look at my desk here. It's pretty messy, but pretty much one of my opinions when it comes to an exposition dump is it's okay to drop information as long as you provide a bit more mystery. Not too much where it feels convoluted, but enough to where the reader is still enticed, and you know there's more to add to the world. An info dump could be totally useful to get your story across, and it's not the worst thing in the world, so long as it doesn't go on forever, in my personal opinion. I guess this is my first time doing this type of vlog, and honestly I don't know where to take it, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and read some of it just so you can get an idea as to where the story is going. Maybe I'll go ahead and tell you about the story and the characters in another video, but for tonight we're just going to focus on chapter 10 and just what that's all about. So I guess I'll just go ahead and read some of it. I'm going to set it down here, or at least have you read along with me if you like. My handwriting is pretty horrible, but if you're able to maintain, I'll still read. I'll do my best to read my own handwriting. Chapter 10. I don't have a title yet. I usually figure one out at the end of whenever I'm done writing a chapter. But for now, the buggy was parked off on the right side of the road. The sun was barely peeking out from behind the group, leaving them in the shade. Tearing through the contrast was a solitary fire being fanned by Ben. He squatted down and blew lightly. In his hand was a tiny straw fan he was gifted by Caroline, while his other hand was placed on his knee to keep him balanced. Obviously, whenever he goes into the computer here, it's going to be a lot different. And no, I'm not terrible at reading. I just have trouble reading my own handwriting sometimes. It was quite the sight to see a large body hunkered down and gingerly tending to the fire. Hanging on a wire was a small kettle, and the water inside had started to steam. Ben quite liked the peace of this scene. The wood crackling in the fire, the water starting to bubble, the little chill in the morning air. He didn't mind the crickets playing their final song before the sun was mighty. He hadn't been able to sleep last night. From the lack of snoring, it also seemed that no one else did either. He welcomed this respite as it took his mind away from Anubis. It had been a long time since he was shoved into the dirt and completely defeated like that. The fact that he called him by what he was poured salt on the wound. I might change that. I might actually indicate who said what. This is a big issue of mine. Sometimes I get confusing with pronouns. It makes sense to me when I'm writing it, but now that I'm reading it out loud, I could definitely see how a reader would get those confused. Continuing on, sorry. I'm probably this is just a rough video. I have no idea of a guideline of how to do this, so bear with me. So yeah, I'm just gonna continue on. The steady crackling and heat from the fire allowed his mind to drift and wander. He fantasized his revenge when he got his hands on Anubis. The whistle of the kettle slowly started to ring out, but it only added to his zoning out. I need to change that. As he stared into the flames, it seemed to match the rising temper and temperature in his blood. And for my novel, this is kind of based off of comic books. The rest of the chapters, they kind of have, whenever a big action or big sound effect happens, I just kind of spell it out. You know, there's a lot of bang, slam, whap. I think I even have one vocal sound where a dude gets punched in the gut and he goes, whoof! You know, that noise? Yeah, kind of like that. I didn't know how to spell the kettle noise, but I also didn't want to say the kettle started to ring. I wanted to be dramatic, so I went ahead and put that in there. The crescendo of the high tone brought him back, and he removed the kettle. Benjamin hoped to surprise the group with a cup of coffee. Plus, he's the only one who's able to make fires with sticks instead of hand fluids. Now, already, there's plenty you guys are missing in context for sure, since we're starting on chapter 10, and I will make a video explaining what my book's about. So already there's like the god of death, the Egyptian god of death, Anubis. There's like hand fluids used to make fires. What is this book about? I'll get to it in another video. But for now, and there's a space indicating a new scene here, you know. They all sat around close to the buggy, but away from the doused fire when the sun came up. The mechanic was still unconscious and was left in the back seat. "Thanks again for the coffee, Ben," Marie said with a smile on her face. Her genuine cheer made it seem like nothing had happened last night. "It was no trouble at all," Benjamin returned with a similar smile. Perhaps he had a soft spot for her, because otherwise, he too responded like Anubis didn't exist. Joseph cleared his throat, never taking a sip from his cup. "About the Hecate," he looked at Benjamin. "You mentioned you tell us more." Ben sighed and nodded his head. He could feel the jittering in Joseph's tone. Next page. He set his cup down and pushed his palms together, resting his chin on his middle fingers. I have a hard time describing, doing the steeple. That's what it's called, making steeples out of the hands. I don't know. I guess this is one of those things where you have to read it out loud. To all you novice writers, I guess I'm a novice writer too. It's always good to read your stuff out loud and put it on the internet for everybody to judge. It's the best course of action, absolutely. Where am I? In his middle fingers. "Yes, the Hecate," he started. "I had hoped that they remain calibrating, or whatever Anubis said." Sorry, I'm about to burp. "Who are they?" Joseph pulled back to hide a more anxious tone. "They are also known as the Cult of the Moon. We call them that due to their reverence of it. You all have heard the story as to why the moon is sacred, yes? As a kid, I remember it being told of the tale of the hunter who struck the surface believing it to be a white rabbit." "That's funny. I heard a different story," Marie interjected. "I heard the one of the lovers separated by their respective fathers. I think the man paces back and forth for eternity until his love returns. Sad story." In the research I read, experts believe a series of strikes from loose debris caused the damage. One or two of those asteroids may have struck Earth, Albert added. The cult believes... Am I on the right place? I want to make sure this is following along to the camera, I should say. The cult believes that the scar is proof that Stigma Moon walks the planet. Stigma Moon? He is their ideal of the perfect being. Born a mortal man and sacrificing his humanity to have the abilities of adepts, mages, and demigods. He's held up as the example of limitless potential. "Do they want to resurrect him?" Marie asked. "Stigma Moon is just a myth. Instead, they elect pharaohs who all have the same idea that they can take on the mantle." Ben stopped for a moment. The group had noticed this and they were waiting for him to finish his thought. He took a deep breath and decided to let out one layer of his walls. "We've been fighting them for a long time, at least those before me. I've yet to encounter them, save for last night. The inevitable question rang out from Joseph. Who's we? I suppose it's time for me to be more honest. What Anubis called me last night was accurate. I am a demigod. And this is the part that I was kind of insecure about, but I'm going to go ahead and read it out loud. And if I like it, I'll keep it. But this is the info dump I was talking about. It's not going to reveal a lot, and when I read it, you guys are going to have more questions too. No one spoke. They were enraptured and anticipating what he could say next. A demigod is a denizen of the higher realm. We try to keep a presence away from everyone else, and when a demigod reaches a certain age, he or she is sent out to live among the people. They're called to return when they've accomplished anything of note and are given an infused weapon. They didn't say anything. No doubt they were filled with questions. There was no reason to disbelieve him. The man could carry a truck and throw it a distance away. I don't want to say, I want to say for Christ's sakes or for Pete's sakes, but I'm the narrator. I'll tell you more, but what abilities does that entail you with? Joseph asked. That sentence feels weird to me. I'll probably rewrite it. How long have you been on Earth? Marie added. Where is this higher realm? Albert inquired. Ben sighed and remembered why he kept those details to himself. Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay. In another time, I'll go more in depth. For now, I need to tell you of the Hecate and why their presence can threaten our mission. The three nodded simultaneously, hanging on every word. If the Hecate is out and about, there's no doubt. I made all that rhyme. If the Hecate is out and about, there's no doubt that it's related to the cloud cracking open. I don't know what they're going to do with the cloud, but I believe we'll be seeing more of their agents the longer we continue. Marie raised her hand, and the group looked confused. Because she's acting like it's in class. Ben motioned for her to speak. She nodded in gratitude. What are we going to do when we make it there? How are we going to get into the cloud? There's a reason I wanted to stop here, Ben answered. He pointed to a hole in the face of a cliff above them. See that cave? There's a good chance that inside is a drop point. There I can communicate with my brother and receive the means to enter the cloud. Boom, boom. Albert's expression widened. Marie froze in shock. Joseph's eyes furrowed. He desperately wanted to know more. Why didn't he give this to you from the get-go? The task of dismantling the cloud is a dangerous one. I've been told that many demigods have died trying. He held off my attempts by not telling me how to get there. If I show up with all of you on my side, maybe I'll be able to convince him, or maybe it'll be enough to convince him to reveal that information. I just need to present my team. Well, what are we waiting for? Joseph stood up. Let's get going. So far, I'm really digging it. It's like I was saying before. It's an info dump for sure, but there's still enough mystery there. As you can see, all three of them are asking, what is this? What is that? And because this is going to be a series, I'm gonna stay relevant to the story for sure. For now, I'm gonna continue and probably move on to the next scene. Maybe, I guess this is the part where I'll get to writing for sure. This is going to be a pretty long video, but I'll make sure that you guys are with me the whole way through. Make sure my tripod works. Okay, that's good. Hopefully I can write comfortably. That's another thing. You got to write comfortably. I like to use my pen here. Well, let's get going. So I'm thinking maybe one more word of caution from Benjamin, or should we just continue on to the next scene where they're climbing up the cliff? Very good questions. Very good questions indeed. How long is this video on for so far? Up to 13-14 minutes. It's going to be a pretty long video. This is typically what I do after work. I figured I'd just film it this time around. You know what? Let's go ahead and jump to the next scene. If I'm editing on the computer and I think of something more to say, I'll put it on there. But let's just move the scene along. I'm gonna get quiet a lot. I might put some music where it's quiet. It's gonna be a lot of recording. You know what? Here's what I'm gonna do. For this next part, I'm going to write it out, and I'm gonna speed it up, obviously, and put music above it because you don't want to sit here and watch me write. I'm not making ASMR videos. I'm making a writing vlog, and you guys want to know more. So, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and write normally. And then I'm gonna restart, talk about what I wrote. Because I'm thinking of making a cut and then just kind of reading out loud what I got. I don't know. I'm gonna try this first one, and then the next time I'll cut it, and we'll see how that works. Okay, so this next scene. The 4. I'm gonna go ahead and get quiet, just letting you know. Then again, hold up. Okay, that was an editing thing. If I sped it up, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it right here actually and read it out loud because I don't know how much memory I have on my camera. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it. Don't worry, I'll still read what I got and kind of deliberate from there. So I'm gonna cut this, and yeah, I'll see you guys in a bit. Movie magic, y'all. Yeah, I went ahead and wrote a bit more. I'm gonna go ahead and read it out. It took me much longer than I expected. It's almost 8:30, and I think I started around 6:30 or so. But hey, that's kind of the writer's process. I'm gonna confess something. I got distracted. I got distracted. That's my fault. Maybe I'll do a video on how to stay focused, because I can be focused. It's just that, long day, doing the same thing over and over. Need a bit of distraction. And that is my cat scratching my chair. Gonna ask him to stop by lightly tapping his tummy. Okay, so last we left off, there is a gung-ho attitude of, well, what are we waiting for? Let's get going. And now I'm going to continue on from where I worked from and just kind of read out loud as I was before. Okay? Gotta find my place. Their feet crunched the loose gravel as they advanced on the slope. Ben carried a large backpack with essential provisions for the party. He was leading the way. You sure you got it? Marie asked. I can assure you that this is no trouble at all. His cadence bounced with his steps. It could be perilous, so be aware. He turned his head to confirm that they all heard him. The trail started to thin out. The group was closer together as they advanced. As a cheeky welcome, the trail was cut off by a large gap. The drop led straight down to a patch of cacti. Looks like we'll have to make a jump for it, Marie said aloud. I'll go first, Joseph volunteered. They all stepped back to allow him to gain momentum. He dashed forward, and in a matter of seconds he leapt off the first part of the gap. Before falling too low, he used his right foot to bounce off the wall and stuck the landing on the other side. Joseph turned around and flashed a smile. Show off! Marie cupped her hands to announce this at him. Ben walked up to the ledge and looked down while removing the backpack. He looked up and motioned with his head to move out of the way. Heads up! He called out. With a swing of his right arm, he launched the bag over the large gap, and it landed on the other side with a thud. Ben stepped back and bounced around for a bit to loosen up. In an instant, he pursed his lips, and a more determined expression... He pursed his lips, and more... Oh, I think this is made. and made a determined expression. His arms sliced the air, and as he kept his palms open, he brought his knees up and moved as fast as he could. I'm sorry this isn't very exciting. I'm probably going to cut that out. But I don't know. It's getting late and I'm getting kind of tired. So, letting out a strained grunt, he jumped up at the last moment. Rolling his arms in front of his body, he braced himself for impact. The ground shook when he landed, causing Joseph to tumble over. He stood up, but his face dropped when he felt the ledge breaking and sliding away. Joseph grabbed his arms and grabbed his arm and pulled with all his might. Crunch! Dust shot up into the air, obscuring the two sides. Each pair held their breaths to avoid inhalation and also due to anticipation. "Are you guys okay?" Marie called out. The silence was palpable. After a tense couple of seconds, a soft and labored voice responded, "Yeah." The dust cleared out, and they saw Joseph helping Ben up. Marie sighed in relief, but she noticed that the bag was missing. Albert leaned over the ledge and looked down. They all stared at each other, sharing the same thought. "Damn." Benjamin vocalized his sentiment. "How are we going to get across?" Albert asked. Joseph scratched his chin for a bit, and the idea hit him. And I went ahead and swapped some slides. It's confusing. I can read it. And the idea hit him. "You better duck." He made his hands glow and fired 2 beams on the cliff wall. Marie and Albert shielded themselves from the blast. A heavy chunk grazed Albert on the back, so when they recovered, he had a bit of a scowl on his face. Two holes were on the cliff wall, and Joseph cupped one hand over to his mouth to shout, "Be careful!" This scene would be a lot funnier if you read it aloud, or if I had a proper script and I read it. I'm just kind of bumbling along, is what it sounds like. A bit of a comedic scene. He punches 2 holes in the cliff wall. It's like, okay, figure it out. Bit of a comedic scene to move on to the next thing. I'm thinking next we're going to go ahead and bump it to the ledge of the cliff, kind of a hard cut from figure it out to we're here. I'll see if I can do it. I like to go to bed at around 9. Another video on that I'll be recording tomorrow morning. I like to wake up at 4 a.m. for a specific reason, and you will find out soon enough. But it's 8:30 now. We're getting close to it. I think I'm going to go a little overtime. I'm going to write some more and read aloud what I have. So stay tuned. Alrighty, y'all. Went ahead and added some more. I'm going to go ahead and read it out. I think that'll be it for me for tonight after this, and I'll kind of explain what I was thinking whenever I wrote this. So, okay. "We made it," Benjamin called out. Everyone out of breath, they let the burden of fatigue take them to the ground. A cool breeze slithered out of the cave at just the right time. The lower temperature kissed at the moisture accumulated in their clothing, chilling their skin. It was dark, as it was inviting. Joseph took in a deep breath and regained his composure. He puffed out his chest and walked up to Ben. "All right, let's head inside." The temperature dropped, and the sound seemed more insular, intimate. Their steps echoed through the walls, sloshing through puddles of water. "Wait," Marie called out. Her voice reverberated and reached out into the depths. It gave them some idea how far they could go. She pulled out her lighter and ignited her left hand. She didn't move forward. "Aren't you going to lead?" Albert asked. "Right." Her enthusiasm brought her to the front, and regret began to slowly set in. It wasn't too long before the sunlight outside disappeared as they went deeper. It was cold enough for them to see their breaths. "Do you have any idea Do you have any idea where we can talk to your brother? Albert asked. I know it's here. Ben's voice had a hint of annoyance. Maybe it was the effort of the futility happening so far. His faith was being tested. That little sound effect. Originally I was going to make it really loud, but no, I wrote it like this so it can be... I don't know, I was trying to do like a predator hiss. You know, the predator is like hunting around and I can't do it, but that's the sound I was going for. They all stopped. It was then noticed how close they stood to each other as their bodies crashed. What was that? Marie hissed out. No one answered. There was enough room to separate, but being vulnerable in darkness caused them to seize. Joseph decided to let his hands glow bright. Looking down, they found themselves on a narrow strip of trail. An abyss waited on both sides. Tensing their bodies, they'd claw their toes to the sliver of ground if they could. For all their power, they couldn't contend with the force of gravity, nor could they protect their flesh from a fall. So pretty much a more atmospheric scene right here where they go into the cave. I might elaborate more because I felt pretty rushed and pretty short. It's almost 9:30. I'm definitely burning the late night oil, if you will. But yeah, I wanted to give a sense because earlier, whenever in the more comedic scene where Joseph tells them to be careful, it was more comedic because these guys they have powers, so you know, a fall on cacti is not going to kill them. But I kind of wanted to make it more atmospheric and more ominous when they're inside a cave. And, you know, it's a bit of a character thing for Joseph letting Marie lead. I don't want to say it like that. But she leads because so far in the story she hasn't really done much. And that is intentional. It's not... it's not because I don't know how to write women. I mean, I'm not going to say I know how to write women. That'll depend on the eye of the reader, honestly. But with Marie, I have specific plans of how her character is going to develop, how she's going to... I guess I should just look at myself. Hold on. But as I was saying, I do have plans for her and how she's going to develop as a character. And right now she's kind of at this... Because in this story, everybody's at a lower state of what they could be and what they can do. And I know I'm going to get into more in detail on this in another video when I explain kind of the story and the characters specifically. But in this scene, it's a bit of charity thrown her way. And Joseph... I might change that up, to be honest. I'm not really feeling it. But Joseph decides, you know what? We just heard a random noise. Screw this junk. And he lights up the whole area. And that's when they see the narrow strip of trail that they could fall off of. And that's where the stakes are raised a little higher. Because, you know, as it said, they see nothing but darkness on either side. So they don't know what is down there. And for all their strengths and all their abilities, you know, everything falls because of gravity. And their flesh can still be pierced by something really sharp. And with cacti, it's plant, and you know, unless you fall on it the right way, it's not going to kill you. But that's pretty much what I wanted to get across. Give them a sense of vulnerability, and especially with an unknown creature lurking about, you know. So we'll see how that turns out. But that's going to be it for tonight. And really, I'm only recording this angle so you can see my desk. I think it has a nice aesthetic. But I want to thank you for joining me tonight and watching me do my process, at least talk about it. After I review this video and kind of post it up, I'll make adjustments along the way. This is the first video of me doing this, specifically just editing and writing mainly. But I hope to get better. I hope to improve. I hope you guys found it informative, or at least kind of get the process. I know everybody's different in their process. For me, I like to think about themes and kind of where the character is, what they're doing, where they are at that stage. Because I remember hearing about with fantasy, there's like hard fantasy and soft fantasy. I could be getting the terms wrong. But with me, I decided to go with hard fantasy. It's sci-fi fantasy, but the rules are very hard, in which they're actually going to be used in the plot as to how they play out. But I hope to continue doing this some more. Thank you for watching, and of course, right on. Catchphrase. I'll be trying them out too. Okay. Wasabi. Wasabi. You make too much noise. It's because I'm not giving you enough attention. Moon vase. You have a moon vase. Wasabi.